The BIPOC Coach Collective proudly presents Elevate and Celebrate. This is a podcast to showcase our members, dive deeper into their journeys, and express who they are into the world. Our mission is to curate a brave and authentic space for coaches to connect and to elevate our voices globally in the coaching profession. Learn more about us at bipoccc.org. Your story matters, your voice matters. Let's start the show. Hey, welcome back to Elevate and Celebrate. This is your VP of the BIPOC Coach Collective, Alex Dumas, and I am excited to introduce our next guest, Dr. Rònké A. She is an amazing DEI practitioner, an author, a researcher, a scientist, an educator, a creator, coach, all that and above in the bag of chips, and you'll see why in just a few moments. We have a wonderful discussion about the future of DEI, how to rebrand, how to repackage things, how to help individuals in the corporate space elevate their worth ethic, right? Not the work ethic, the worth ethic. And we get into that in upcoming masterclass that she has going on. So for you watching, you're going to be thrilled. You're going to take a lot of notes. I know this is going to be impactful for you. So I hope that you tap in for that. Leave us some comments. Tell us what value you got from this, what insights were created from this. Leave a review, share it with your friends, share it with your colleagues. That's my ask for you for today. And for those of you who are our champion members, we have our next call coming up this month, and we have an open house this month as well. So we invite you to be a part of our community, get to meet myself, the other executive members, our champion members, other people in this space, leaders in this global majority, and that way we as individual pieces collaborate, connect, and be creative and make a difference in the world of coaching, of transformational work, consultancy, whatever it is. So with all that said and done, let's get into this episode. You're gonna enjoy it. One. All right, welcome back, everybody. This is Alex Dumas here, and I am blessed, honored, excited to introduce you to Dr. Rònké A. Welcome, Rònké, to the show.
Thank you. Thank you. Such a pleasure to be here and to have this conversation with you. Yes.
For sure. So you have quite, I'm gonna get fancy here, right? Because you're a doctor, so I gotta get the big university words here. You have quite the dossier, right? You're an author, you're a coach, you're a speaker, a facilitator, an educator. You're the CEO and founder of RAO Consultants, and you have this extensive history and background and experience with DEI and belonging and access and social justice. So, whew, all that said and done, right? I gotta feel like I ran a marathon right there. Tell me, what's your story? How did you get into this line of work?
Yes. So like you said, I am a very multi-hyphenated professional. I am an academically trained philosopher, which is important for me to say. I always start my story there because it is such a unique degree to get. I'm only one of, let's say, 60 to 70 Black women in the history of philosophy. And we're talking about an old discipline, a discipline that began in 600 BCE with Thales of Miletus, and only 60 to 70 of us have obtained a PhD in philosophy. So I'm happy to be part of such an elite, a small, and a committed, group of women and scholars who want to transform the field away from its history of only focusing on Western philosophy to include and to research and to explore questions that pertain to our particular identity and identity formation. My research and specialization is in race, gender, and identity formation. Basically, I want to better understand myself and my experiences as a racialized Black woman in the United States, in the world, in Nigeria. So I'm also Nigerian. So how do I understand all of these different experiences of being this racialized embodied being, as I move through this world? So that's what my research is in. Like you also said, I am a writer. I am an author. I am a speaker. I am a DEI consultant and strategist. I am a worth ethic advocate, which I know we're going to dig in deeper into. And I'm also the CEO and founder of RAO Consultants, where I provide strategic guidance to corporations and educational organizations to support new and existing professionals and also to help employees navigate the workplace culture. So, my interest in helping and advocating for other people has always been at the root of everything that I do. My career has always been driven by this passion. It's always been passion motivated, starting with nonprofit and mission driven work to help communities and improve lives. And I left my academic position right at the cusp of tenure to pursue DEI professionally. And I made that difficult decision. It definitely, absolutely was not easy, but I was driven by a desire to help people like me avoid workplace challenges and create inclusive, healthier environments for them. In the corporate world, I learned the language of business while transforming organizations to meet DEI goals and empowering employees to navigate work related trauma and advocate for their needs. I did this both in corporate spaces, in nonprofit spaces, in educational institutions, in private groups. I worked with, individuals and employees and contributing staff to make sure that they were able to advocate for their needs within these often tense, often toxic workplace environments. And this work inspired my research to move away from just a general focus on identity to specifically understanding work identity, which is a multidimensional self concept that shapes how we see ourselves and how we operate within organizations. And ultimately, I realized that across all industries, across all levels, no matter what your place, what your role in the organization, in the system is, we have inherited work habits that often reduce us to labor and production, valuing our output over our intrinsic worth. So today, I am very, very, passionate and committed to helping others redefine their relationship with work and embrace their worth ethic and find purpose beyond productivity. And I'm excited about this journey. I'm excited about where this journey has taken me. I'm excited about what I'm doing with the worth ethic journey and how I'm bringing about this worth ethic revolution. And I am excited to also just talk to you more and to share and with your audience more about how they too can join this worth ethic revolution.
Oh my goodness. I had to take a I had to take a second for myself because you just said something that was really profound beyond purpose and productivity, right? Uh, I'm gonna go to a sidebar here, right? This reminds me of this line from this song I heard with Hit Boy and Nas. He talked about focus on the output, not the outcome. And
Mm,
that's kind of how I related with how you said that there. Just it sparked in my mind, and I'm really interested in that work of how you're helping clients, how you're helping them to look beyond, all right, got to get it done, right? The pressure that we as we as Black individuals, and then for our audience, BIPOC, Black Indigenous people of color, the pressure of having to be perfect, to exceed, to excel, to try to fit into these rooms, to try to get into these spaces where they weren't necessarily designed for us. So can you expand on that a little bit?
yes. So I would revise that to say that it's neither about output or outcome. That is what I like to say, the lie that work has taught us, that society has taught us, that we can only measure things in terms of how they are flowing out from us, how we're contributing to external processes, how we're receiving and how we value external value validation, and also how we are getting our outcomes. So execution, are we meeting our goals? Are we getting it done? Are we working hard? Is there proof that we are accomplishing and achieving and hitting these metrics? And what worth ethic is saying is that that is the flaw. That's the reason why we experience burnout. We experience mental stress. We're experiencing mental health and physical health issues at an alarming rate. We're finding ourselves ending up in the ER because we're only measuring our value, our standards of success around things that are flowing out from us and not pouring back into us. And so the worth ethic, it was really trying to reframe that, trying to shift that definition from external validation, from output, from deliverables, from these metrics of achievement, and saying there's a different way to do it. We can define success on our terms. We could first center ourselves. We could find what's of value to us and let that determine how we make decisions in terms of what career choices we seek out, what types of relationship dynamics we want. We try, and so it's this like very holistic endeavor. It's entire holistic practice that allows us to connect with something deeper than just our work. We are more than what we do. And so worth ethic is just trying to refocus us to say, hey, you are a valuable, intrinsically valuable, worthy individual beyond just your outputs and deliverables and your list of achievements on your resume.
Yeah. I hope whoever's watching this, whoever's listening, hope you did one of these, right? I talk about all the time. Kind of put the finger in here so it goes in one, doesn't go out the other, because you're gonna want to saute in that, marinate in that. I'm curious, has this always been your approach, your the way you're thinking from, little Rònké to who you are now as a champion, as a giant, right? Like, where did this philosophy develop from? Who inspired you?
Well, I think that I was one of those individuals who I'm a perfectionist. I'm Nigerian, so I have that, drive to just, to be perfect, to achieve, to attain this level of success that is not only good for me, but it's good for my family. It's good for my community. It's good for the entire Nigerian population. So I had the weight of achievement on my shoulders. And it was such a heavy burden for me to bear. And so I struggled with that. I struggled whenever I didn't meet or achieve a goal, whenever I didn't get that promotion, whenever I went up or I interviewed for something that I thought was perfect for me, I didn't get it. Instead of being an attorney, instead of being a philosopher, I always wanted to be an attorney. But there were certain situations that made that road, that path impossible for me. And it really set me back. And that's what continuously happened. I met against these roadblocks, these personal and professional, challenges, and it was difficult for me to rebound. And I thought it was because I was overworking. So I tried to achieve a work-life balance. I tried to, pursue passion projects. I tried to kind of shift my orientation in this way. But I ultimately realized that it wasn't really about the amount of work that I was doing. Okay, correct. It was about the amount of work that I was doing. Yes, we are overworking, and that is part of the problem. But even in that work that I found personally passionate about, in terms of the mission-driven work, the ministry work, the work around helping people advocate for our needs, there was still something missing. I was still feeling disconnected from everything. And I made that decision, and it came about when I made the difficult decision to leave academia. Academia and getting tenure is the height of achievement for an academic. You want tenure. That's something that they teach you in grad school, that they rear you in undergrad, that if you're pursuing this journey, you want tenure. Tenure is your ultimate goal. And I decided after all of these things, after all of these reflections, that tenure wasn't for me. I made the decision, and I even announced it, and this is when it became real, that I was really working for the end of my work. Like, as a DEI practitioner, as someone who was, working to make spaces more inclusive, to help communities really thrive in and of themselves, I did not want to do this for the next 20 years of my life. I did not want to do this for the next 40 years of my life. I didn't want my children and the next generation to have to deal with these issues in their lives, in their generation. So what does it mean to work for the end of my work? To eliminate the need for my role. And that's when it clicked to me that it was work, that I was working in the wrong way. And so that's when I started making the shift. And I saw a lot of people making the shift. So I never confess that I'm doing anything original. I think that I am a natural scientist, a natural academic. I'm looking around and seeing how people are making this shift and providing the language to describe the thing that we all need to embrace, which is what I'm calling the worth ethic. And so that it was difficult, but that's how I did it. And that's what sparked this new journey for me that I'm on. I've been on. It is a journey. And I'm still in it.
Yeah, I salute you for that, and I'm sure your clients are thanking you for it,
Yes.
for the work you do for yourself. And it's interesting here in the United States. Gosh, let's say questions for you, but right now we're in this really interesting critical time where DEI is quote unquote being eliminated or phased out from a lot of major corporations and organizations. So for a leader out there who's thinking, yeah, why is this important for me? Or why do I need to promote inclusivity? Or how is this going to help the bottom line? Like, what would your reply be to them with that kind of mindset?
That's a great question because, like you said, as we see these major corporations are pulling back, eliminating their DEI role. I was one of those individuals in the DEI role that got eliminated at an organization. So I understand fully well what that means, what that looks like, and just the types of questions a diversity practitioner has about the future of their industry, especially if they're trying to figure out, well, where do I transition and where do I go from there? And so a lot of the work that I do supporting other diversity practitioners, especially in this stage, is around asking the very question that you just did. Where do we go from here? What does the future look like? And one of the things that I always tell individuals is that one, DEI is not going anywhere. We still need the work to be done. It's just going to look different, and we are DEI practitioners, DEI professionals are masters at the art of the pivot. If an organization is not really embracing the type of work that you're doing, you pivot. You connect it to corporate social responsibility. You look at their ESG commitments. You look at what do they call it, their agile framework. So there are a lot of places, a lot of holes to place DEI or to continue doing the work. So DEI is always going to be there. It's always going to be there as long as individuals, as people make up the organization. And as long as people are working at the organizations, there's going to be a need for DEI because the DEI focuses on corporate culture. It focuses on making sure that the needs of the individuals are taken care of. And once the needs of the people who are contributing to the work that's being done in the organization is taken care of, then the organization can thrive. So I don't like to talk about, what is the business case. I know that is the language, that's the preferred language among DEI consultants and also organizations to always talk about the bottom line. I really talk about, well, what does your vision for success look like? And how can you attain this with the people that you have? Because you can't attain it on your own. If the organization could run on its own, it would have been successful. But you need these very people. They are the face of your organization. They're the ones who are producing the work, the outputs. They're making your brand, and so they're critical to your success. So we want to make sure that they're taken care of. We want to make sure that they're not burnt out. We want to make sure that they feel that they are valued, that they feel heard, that they feel as though they matter to you and your organization. So that's what I spend a lot of time talking about, and how I attend to that question of where's DEI going? What's the next step? Well, DEI, again, let me be clear, is going nowhere. We just have to work differently and really lean into the art of the pivot.
Thank you for that answer. For our community, we have executive coaches, business coaches, folks that are like yourself who are practitioners in this work. And I'm curious if you have advice for those folks who, or maybe coming up against those roadblocks, those barriers with organizations in the sense of supporting them to do the work versus the check boxes or the lip service, right? Of hey, we're inclusive, this is we're supporting African Americans, or Hispanic, Asian American month and Asian Pacific, like the lip service of it versus hey, we're gonna get to the root, the core of it, because at the end of the day, like you mentioned, people run the machine, right? This is human resources for a reason, not machine resources, not robot resources, people who have lives, who have challenges, who have their own expectations and dreams. So what would your advice be for a coach who is who's maybe having that fear of, yeah, maybe this could be phased out, maybe I'm not gonna get as many opportunities, maybe there's less dollars here. And what would you say for them or to them, I should say?
So one of the things that I often say is it goes back to the worth ethic. Remember your value. Remember that you have value. Remember that the work that you do is valuable. And all you're doing is trying to convince someone who has no understanding of the value of your work, of the value of this thing that you're and the service that you're providing. All you're doing is not you're not trying to convince them, but you're just trying to remind them of their value. So that's what I say. So DEI, is has a branding problem right now. It's a PR problem. It's not a fundamental core problem of the industry. What it has is a PR problem. It's been attached and associated to ideas and concepts that really distort the meaning. So what we have to do is that we have to restructure, we have to rebrand what DEI is without losing the core of what it is. I'm not saying to distill it down to, I don't even understand what it would be, but to really keep the meat of it and then to find a way to connect and to align it to the work that the organization does. A lot of the work that we do in DEI is always talking about how does DEI fit in with your mission. As long as the organizational mission is the same, there's always going to be a through line connecting DEI to the organization. And you just have to find that thing that makes that connection. Again, this is why I said maybe we pivot to talking more about corporate social responsibility. We talked more about ESG. There's actually DEI language in ESG work that really can be useful for us as DEI practitioners and consultants and strategists to remind organizations of the value of DEI. So I always say, so that's one of the things that I say. And yes, it's going to be difficult, but one of the things that we do know is that it's always been difficult. We've always known that organizational commitments have been performative, have been very superficial. And so we know that their primary interest is to check the box, but we know that the work from on the ground level is meaningful. So the last word of advice that I often give them is not to focus from the top down. That I know that is that is an approach. And a lot of people say, well, if we have executive buy-in, if the leader or the CEO is committed to this, then we can make this move. I tend to work from the middle out. The core is the thing that upholds the organization. This is why I talk about the people so much. That when the people in the organization feel committed, when they feel valued, when they feel heard, when they feel they have agency, when they feel as though they can show up as their true self, then you see that pressure rising to the top. And so if you can't get it from the top down, go middle out and make change there.
From the core. You are dropping many gems, right? I've loved this. First of all, the DI being a PR problem, a branding problem, and reinventing the way that we discuss it, right? Not make it a cookie cutter, but just, hey, we have to be creative, right?
Mhm.
And as people of color, probably one of our, that's probably our number one superpower of adapting, being flexible and restructuring things. And this is gonna go backwards right now. Right. You said you have you're based out of Nigeria. So what do you see as like the difference or some, let's start here. Differences and similarities between like maybe Nigerian entrepreneurs, coaches, leaders, and us Western African American leaders and coaches. Like, do you see differences in similarities or how we approach our work or how our worth is expressed?
Yeah, that's a very great question. I've only just begun to kind of start thinking about that in those contexts. I think that we are both responding to a particular environment, to,
Mm,
the cultural happenings. And so I think that when I look at Nigerian consultants and when I look at the work that they're doing, there's a lot that's being done, especially I deal with a lot of women entrepreneurs, women who are trying to enter into DEI or women who need to kind of remember their worth. There's a lot of gender-based discrimination, that is the challenge that they're trying to overcome. So I see
mm,
that overwhelmingly, that there's always comes from a gender equality type angle. Whereas, in the United States, it's formally, race based, and then after race, then we can lay on the gender, the sex, the discrimination, and all of those aspects. So, in terms of like what is motivating and where they find the pain points in their lives, those types of things are different. But when we're talking about the worth ethic, one of the things that is consistent across the board is overwork, in terms
mm,
of this achievement driven model that I can only achieve if I put in this amount of hours. And so that's one of the critical things that my journey, my work with working with professionals in this industry and across all industries is trying to overcome. How do we begin to shift this? How do we begin to reframe where we find our value away from work and overwork and hard work to our worth, to our energy alignment, to rethinking what productivity is, not as output, not as execution, but as energy alignment and working in our peak energy zones. So that's what I spend a lot of time doing when I'm talking to clients across intercontinental clients. Yes.
no, fair enough. Thank you for that. And kind of diving into the work you've mentioned, uh, worth ethic, and you have a 5 day masterclass boot camp coming up, and I love what you're talking about. I love you share because this is one of the messages I share from the stage. Part of my win method, right? The W stands for worth, and as far as the value of how you see yourself, how you are, um, you're being more so than the doing, because like you mentioned, the doing is what runs us into the ground. Got to achieve more, got to stay up longer, sleep less, eat unhealthy, right? Just all these things, this an overall holistic way of sabotaging yourself in the long run to think you're gonna get ahead in the corporate space or wherever you're going, trying to outperform other people. So all that said and done, break down the your worth ethic masterclass for those who are seeing and watching you like, you know what, I would love to experience you. I would love to get more of what you're doing.
Yeah.
How do I get into your world?
Yes. So I am excited to talk about this worth ethic boot camp. It really is something that I have put a lot of love. I poured a lot of aha moments. It is truly a program that's going to really shift your perspective. It's going to give you the foundational tools to start this worth ethic journey. So it's a 5 day online boot camp. Let me repeat that. It's virtual, it is on demand, it is self paced. And it is this beautiful program where we spend each day shifting and unlearning and redefining the core aspects of our work ethic so that we can shift from work to worth. So each of the 5 days, we have a different theme. On day one, we talk about over managing our why, what motivates us, How do we really characterize our motivation? And in that way, how does this motivation and this achievement driven aspect of and practice and behavior that we engage in regularly, how does it lead and help us to highlight those things that we're finding that lead to burnout? So that's day one. Day two, we talk about, we get right into the meat of it, right to the heart of it, and talk about work. And we're learning to decenter work. So what does that look like? It means like highlighting and identifying those problematic, those toxic work habits, traits that we have inherited throughout our lives, even in childhood, watching our children, watching our parents work, watching adults work, our first job. What are the things that we learned about what it takes and what it means to be successful, and how it and the types of work habits that we adopted? What types of industries and career paths have we chosen that make us more susceptible to overwork? And how do we shift that? So how do we unlearn the problematic and toxic work habits that we have explored, or that we have uncovered and we have taken on since the very first time that we were introduced to the concept of work? On day three, we talk about productivity. And we do it in a very different way. This definition of productivity is completely different. It's something that you have not heard before. It is not achievement driven. It's not about outcomes. It's not about deliverables. It is very, very powerful. And so in day three, we talk about how do we become productive in a way that is non-toxic, that doesn't, lead us back to an achievement driven model. On day four, we talk about what success is. And one of the things that I always talk about is our ability to define success on our terms. What does it mean? How do we define success on our terms? What does success mean in a worth-driven life? And so we talk about success on day four. And finally, I give you the blueprint for beginning your worth ethic journey in day five. So you leave the program with a blueprint that you can take. And what I didn't mention is every day there are activities, there are exercises, there are inventories that are going to help you to dig in deep, to really reflect to your core what the issues are, what the challenges are, and really open up, liberate you from this idea of work. The last thing that I'm excited to tell you about, and to that I incorporated into this boot camp, is a worth alignment test, and that is actually available now on my website, www.drronkeaake.com. And the worth alignment test is this wonderful baseline that tells you if you're work centered, life centered, or worth centered. And it's going to give you an idea of that's going to really open up, all the things that you've experienced. It's the feedback that I've received, as I like to describe this as a boot camp that helps you to determine your worth ethic. Someone told me that when they went through the boot camp, there wasn't any, like, for them, critical aha moments. But what it did was that it held up a mirror to them, to let them really identify and confront and see themselves, to see their value for the first time. And I thought that that was a beautiful way to describe what you can hope and expect to gain from this boot camp. So you will really get back in touch with yourself. You'll really rediscover your worth, and along the way, you'll unlearn these toxic work habits and really begin to center yourself and your worth.
That sounds amazing, and I love to poke the bear, right? Because I want to come from the lens of the person
Okay.
who's like, Ronke, that sounds great. You don't understand me. I'm a workaholic. I'm a I'm a elite achiever. I can't commit 5 days to this. Is this really going to work for me? Like, what would your response be to someone who's got the skeptic, right? The curious person.
Oh yes, oh yes. There are a lot of those out there. I used to be one, so I had you in mind when I was designing it. This is why I designed it online. This is why I designed it self-paced. You do not have to complete each task or activity on that particular day. You actually have 2 weeks to complete it. So this is one of those great things in terms of like it works on your schedule. I also gave audio components and audio companions. So if you are taking a walk, if you're having one of those walking meetings, if you're at the gym, you can listen to these lessons. You can complete the activities in your commute. So this boot camp is supposed to work with your busy life. It's supposed to be able to be integrated into the natural flow of your life. So that's one. The second is that, you know, when we say that we're busy, we never say that we're happily busy, right? We never say, you know, like what, you know, we have to be honest, right?
I'm thrilled to not have any time. Whew, it's
Yeah,
great.
I'm excited and I want to, you know, and I have 40 more years of working at this speed, at this level, you know, in me. So yeah, I don't want to change. No, that's not what we're finding. The statistics, we all know the statistics around burnout, overwork, mental health, physical health. So we know that that is not the case, that you are happily burnt out, that you are happily overworked, that there's nothing that could, you know, so again, I'm not introducing anything new. I'm not saying anything you don't already know about yourself. I am just highlighting the things that you have expressed, maybe not to me, but you have definitely expressed them to yourself. And I'm saying that I am going to support you in this journey to reach and achieve the transformation that you want. That's all I say.
That's it. You are dropping the hammer. This is a masterclass in itself. So if you're watching, if you're listening to this, I say it a lot on these episodes, but I mean it. Like, listen, watch this again. Review this, really soak in and see what does this look like for you? What would it look like for you to be happy, right? Because I think at the end of the day, that's what we all want. We want to be fulfilled within ourselves. We want to be proud of what we do and make a contribution. And if we can do that and still have these moments where we can breathe, wouldn't that be something?
Mhm.
That's a possibility, of course.
Yes.
So before we wrap up, I want to just give you some space. Is there anything that you want to put into this atmosphere now that we haven't talked about, that we haven't shared anything on your mind that, hey, this would be really amazing for someone to capture and potentially live into?
I already shared about the work that I'm doing with the Worth Ethic Revolution. I have already told you about the Worth-Ethic Bootcamp that you should definitely sign up for. The last thing that I would share is that I have a Worth-Ethic Ambassadors program. So if you are very interested in not only helping to, if not, if you are really interested in supporting this worth ethic journey, if you want to help bring about the worth ethic revolution, if what I've been saying has been resonating deeply with you and you want to help to expand this message, then please reach out to me, and let's get you into the Worth Ethic Ambassadors program. You can find me on social media. I am on Instagram. I'm also on TikTok at thediversitydoc.com. I am also on. You could go to my website and find out more information about me. www.drronkeaake.com. And also, you can find me on Gmail. You can send me an email at thediversitydoc@gmail.com. So reach out. Let me know what resonates with you. Let's connect, and let's bring this worth ethic journey and this worth ethic revolution to you.
Absolutely. Appreciate you. I want to give a quick acknowledgement and shout out to Black Speakers Network. That's how you and I got
Yes.
connected and this was made happen. So Brian Olds and his team out there, thank you for allowing myself and other podcasters and show hosts to welcome in wonderful guests like yourself. This has been really fabulous and I couldn't be happier with this conversation. So thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you so very much for having me. This has been such a pleasure. And thank you also for the platform. and also the work that you do, just elevating and celebrating other coaches, BIPOC coaches in this industry. We really do appreciate just, the opportunity to be seen, to be heard, and to be valued. So thank you.
Ooh, I'm gonna take that soundbite. That sounds better than how I could say it, right? This is the purpose of this, right? We as the global majority having so much brilliance, but it's underrepresented or undervalued. And someone like you who is a champion for people's worth and making this accessible for folks, it's just a wonderful thing. So I can keep going on and on. I'm gonna give you all the flowers, and people will be like, "Oh, Alex, can you just stop now?" Like, we get it.
Oh no, Alex, keep going. Keep
Shower praise. No, but it's all
going.
well deserved. I salute you for the work you've put in. I hate to say the work you put in, the work you do with yourself, the work you've done with building up your own worth, and then empowering others to do the same. So, with all that said and done, we're gonna wrap up this episode. For everyone watching, listening, we're gonna tap in next month and get on with your lives. Do something positive, make a difference, and we'll see you next time.
Take care.
Thanks for watching this episode. If you got value from this, please subscribe and leave a rating and review. And feel free to connect with us at bipoccc.org. See you next time.